Right now, in Washington, D.C., there's a single piece of legislation making its way through Congress. And honestly, it could be the thing that either kicks off the next massive crypto bull run or sends the whole market tumbling back down. It's called the Clarity Act, and it really is a major fork in the road for Bitcoin. So let's get into it.
Okay, imagine this. You're trying to play the biggest football game of the year, the championship game, but there's no rule book. None. One ref says touchdown, the other calls a penalty for the exact same play. I mean, it would be total chaos, right? Well, that's pretty much been the situation for digital assets in the US for the past decade. You see, on one side, you've got the way things are now, regulation by lawsuit. This is where agencies like the SEC just sue somebody and figure out the rules after the fact. It's completely unpredictable, and it scares away the big conservative money. But on the other side, you have what the Clarity Act is promising, regulation by law, a clear official rulebook that everyone gets to read before the game even starts. So here's our game plan for this explainer. First, we're going to dig into this chaotic game without rules. Then we'll look at how the Clarity Act proposes to fix it. From there, we'll explore the two very different futures this creates, the super optimistic bull thesis and the much more cautious bear thesis. And finally, we'll zoom in on the critical June deadline that's going to decide which path we're headed down.
So right now, what we basically have is a regulatory civil war. You've got the SEC and the CFTC in this constant turf war over digital assets. Is Bitcoin a security, like a stock, or is it a commodity, like gold or oil? And because nobody knows for sure, the really big financial players, I'm talking pension funds, huge private banks, they're all just stuck on the sidelines, completely paralyzed by their own compliance rules. And this is where the Clarity Act comes in. It's designed to be the peace treaty in this whole conflict. It's the official rulebook that finally moves the United States from this chaotic mess of lawsuits to a clear, predictable legal framework. At its heart, the most important thing the Act does is draw what's called a bright line. This is absolutely the key. It provides legal certainty by officially defining which assets are commodities and belong to the CFTC, and which are securities, which belong to the SEC. That simple definition, it's the key that unlocks everything else. So it works in 3 pretty simple steps. Step 1, it just comes out and says it. Bitcoin and Ethereum are commodities. Debate over. Step 2, that classification gives the federal stamp of approval that big banks need to not just allow their clients to buy Bitcoin, but to actively go out and market it. And third, it sets up clear rules for stablecoins, which are basically the plumbing of the crypto market, creating a massive on-ramp for money from all over the world. And the amount of money just waiting for this green light, it's just staggering. We're talking an estimated $20 to $30 billion in institutional capital that's ready to pour into the market pretty much the moment this bill gets signed. That's the kind of scale we're looking at here. Okay, so let's walk down that first path. This is the exciting one. This is the bull thesis, the best-case scenario where the Clarity Act actually becomes law by this June. In this world, the number everyone is throwing around is $150,000 for Bitcoin. That's more than double where it is today. So the obvious question is, how in the world does it get there? Well, the bull case really stands on 4 pillars. First, you've got these new ETFs already soaking up Bitcoin faster than it can be mined. Second, if the Fed starts printing more money, Bitcoin has historically acted like a giant liquidity sponge, absorbing all that new cash. Third, if the US ever decided to create a strategic reserve of Bitcoin, well, that would cause a massive supply shock. And finally, we're just in that sweet spot of Bitcoin's 4-year cycle, the part where things historically get explosive. But of course, there is another path, the bear thesis. This is the world where politics gets in the way and the Clarity Act just fizzles out in Congress. In this scenario, the price target is a much more sobering $50,000. But what's really interesting here is that this number isn't just pulled out of thin air. It represents a classic reversion to the mean, a textbook pullback right to Bitcoin's long-term historical price average, which is known as the 200-week moving average. In the bear case, Bitcoin just fails to break free. It acts like any other tech stock and sells off hard in a recession. And those same ETFs that helped it on the way up, they could become a huge liability, triggering massive automated sell-offs on the way down. Plus, with the Fed keeping rates higher for longer, safe old treasury bonds start looking a lot more attractive. And any big geopolitical scare could cause a flight to the safety of the US dollar and gold, not Bitcoin. So we have 2 completely different futures in front of us, and the moment of decision is coming up fast. The entire story really hinges on a legislative timeline that all points to this June. So here's the final gauntlet. The bill has to get through the Senate Banking Committee, which is happening now. Then there's a window for a full Senate vote in April. If that goes well, May is for ironing out the differences between the House and Senate versions. And all of that is sprinting towards one finish line, getting the bill on the president's desk to be signed in June. So what are the odds? Well, they're actually looking pretty good. Prediction markets are giving it about a 72% chance of passing this year, and that feeling is even stronger on Capitol Hill, where political insiders think the odds of it passing the Senate are as high as 80%. So the momentum is definitely there. But, and you knew there was a but coming, there's a major risk, the 2026 midterm elections. If this bill doesn't get signed by June, election year politics could just push it onto the back burner indefinitely. And as this quote points out, the market has been trading on the rumor, the expectation that this will pass. If that hope starts to fade, you could see the exact kind of sell-off that the bear case predicts. And that's really where we are. It's a choice between a clear rulebook that could unlock a whole new wave of adoption and a new all-time high, or just more of the same chaotic risk that could send the price tumbling. For better or for worse, Bitcoin's future is now in Washington's hands. The next few months are going to decide the whole game.